right, welcome back everyone. Hopefully you had a fruitful first learning session breakout and learned a lot from our faculty, staff, and alumni. We're going to go ahead and transition to talking a little bit more about Harvey Mudd College's community. And to do so, Tira is going to share more about that.
Sure, happy to do so. Again, glad you all had a chance to learn more about sort of our academic lives and research and all of those sorts of things, as well as the makerspace. But I do want to talk a little bit about an equally important part of life at Harvey Mudd, and that is sort of the overall community and what you can learn from that in just as important ways as you can from your curricular work. If you want to switch to the next slide, Kevin. So while you were all in your breakout rooms, someone asked in the chat or in the Q&A about sort of what three words would you use to describe Harvey Mudd and its community? And the three that I chose were collaborative, interdisciplinary, and kind. And I think all of those things really really define what the Harvey Mudd community is. We are a community of people who are tied together by a few really strong beliefs in terms of the worth of every single individual, the value of the diversity of our community. All of those different pieces are really important. But I do want to highlight a couple of things that you'll see on this slide and on the next one. The honor code, for example, is absolutely key to how Harvey Mudd runs. And we are one of a handful of colleges in the country to have a student-run honor code, which means that really it's a shared governance experience with our faculty and with our administration, but really the students run it. And how that sort of translates into the policies on campus is most of your exams at Harvey Mudd, for example, are unproctored. Literally, a professor might hand you or send you an exam, tell you how long you have to take it, what resources you can use, and you could be sitting in your room taking an exam. You could be sitting on the lawn. You could be sitting in an empty classroom. You could be sitting with other people. Our students know this is a luxury and they take this very seriously. I think one of my sort of most powerful examples of this was one of our math professors shared that he gave an exam and the student had 2 hours to take it, was using an exam book. And after 2 hours, she hadn't finished the exam. So in the exam book itself, she drew a line and essentially said, this is how far I got in 2 hours, and then proceeded to finish the exam because she wanted to prove that she could, but she wanted to be honest about the fact that she took longer than the allotted time. So students take that seriously. It also means students watch out for one another. It means that there's a deep sense of care on our campus. And because the honor code is both for academics, but also for our community. The student-run disciplinary and judicial board are the ones that oversee it. They are the ones, for the most part, who decide if there are consequences. And we really do rely on a culture of sort of self-report, where we ask students to be honest if they have done something that they think violates the honor code and to share that. So it's, again, a strong underpinning for our entire community. I also love the fact that we have something called N+1, which largely translates into the fact that there's always room for one more. It's one of the reasons you will walk into our dining hall and you will see a table with originally 8 chairs that now apparently has 15 or 20 around it. I think it's an incredibly open atmosphere for our students to take advantage of. We haven't talked as much about study abroad yet, but we do want to reassure everybody that we're trying to sort of break the trend or the belief that STEM students can't study abroad, because it is equally important for our students to take advantage of that. Any student who wants to can study abroad. We don't have programs of our own, but you can go through other programs and just transfer your credits back. If you're on financial aid, your credits transfer, or your financial aid transfers with you. So all of these different offices running out of our Division of Student Affairs are all really key to offering our students support all the way through their time at Harvey Mudd, both within the curriculum and outside of the curriculum. You want to switch the slides, Kevin? Thank you. So I mentioned at the beginning that you can use any of the dining halls at any of the other Claremont colleges. And that means that you've got all sorts of dining halls to choose from. What that really means is that students follow the good food around. They know which dining hall is serving what meal when. And so students will take full advantage of that. I will also note that right now, in about 10 minutes, we have something on our campus called Hawksgiving, which is the Harvey Mudd celebration of Thanksgiving, which is a huge deal for our students. Everybody's out there lining up and getting dressed up. So it's another one of the strong traditions. But you should also know that Harvey Mudd is a very data-driven place. So we can actually prove through data that Harvey Mudd College and Pitzer College have the highest rate of import into our dining halls of any of the institutions. So we have actually data-driven proof that Harvey Mudd is some of the best food in the Claremont Consortium. Another part is that everybody lives on campus at Harvey Mudd. About 98% of our students live on campus all 4 years, and all of our 9 different residence halls offer first-year students through seniors living together. We want our first-year students to essentially have the opportunity to be surrounded by those who have already gone through the core curriculum, who can offer them strong advice as they're selecting classes and looking for professors and all of those different pieces. So your residence hall really does become very much like your family during your time at Harvey Mudd. Some students will sort of find a residence hall. A lot of them have very strong personalities attached to them. Sometimes they will find their residence hall at the beginning of their time and sort of stay in the same place. Other students will move around every year, but the residence hall really does become a key part of your time at Harvey Mudd. And then finally, our CMS athletics. So this is a kind of a strange part about the consortium. You might think that we would have 1 sports team or 5 sports teams, given that there are 5 undergraduate colleges, but instead we actually have 2 sports teams. So Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Scripps combined to make a team called CMS, and our arch rivals are Pomona Pitzer. So we actually play each other when there is an away game. If you're playing Pomona Pitzer, you literally just sort of run across the street. It's all the facilities are right next to each other. We are all Division III in the NCAA. And we all, Division III means that there are no athletic scholarships. And we all compete in something called SCIAC, which is the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. And I will point out that CMS, our team, has won that championship more than any of the other teams. So we're proud of that. But so we're one of the few places where you could actually be in class with someone at 3 and competing against them at 5. And so I think the key thing to know is that it's a very healthy idea of a scholar athlete. I think when people hear about the rigor at Harvey Mudd, they're concerned, how can you be a varsity level athlete and still maintain all of the different courses and everything that you have to do at Harvey Mudd? But this probably won't surprise any of you who are athletes. If you are at the level of being a recruited athlete in college, you already have great time management skills. And so we often see that some of our strongest students are our athletes. So rest assured that if athletics is something that's important to you, you can certainly keep up with that as well. And then, of course, there are club sports and intramural sports that students take full advantage of. And I think one of the most exciting things is that one of the most popular intramural sports is inner tube water polo, which actually takes the really hard part of water polo, that part about staying afloat, and removes that. So I hope that what's clear from what I've been sharing with you about the Mudd community is that being in a community of 915 people means that you don't get to know every single person, but you certainly know of people. You certainly are able to make strong connections, and it's a very intentional community. And by that, I mean, as we're going through the admission process, which I'll talk about in a little while, we are looking for students who are excited to collaborate with each other. We are looking for students who are excited to support one another. We are looking for students who we know, even though you may be a really strong person in your high school, a very strong student, you're the kind of student who has noticed when others are struggling and reached out to try to help them. So when you have a community of 915 people, all of whom come at this with that sort of ethos or that sort of mindset, it's going to be a really wonderful, empowering place to be. And it's one of the key things and one of the reasons that I'm still at Harvey Mudd 18 years later is because the community of people here watch out for one another and care deeply about one another. So with that, I will turn it back to Kevin.
Thank you, Tira, for sharing about the Mudd community here. Hopefully you're going to get the opportunity to learn about that now directly from students, directly from staff, how we really come together as a community to make sure that we are supporting one another in a multitude of different ways. So you're going to find that the next 3 session breakouts are really centered around that sense of connection. What are different ways that we learn together, grow together, support one another? So the first breakout session is going to be about your home away from home, residential culture and life at Mudd. As Tara mentioned, dorms are a really large part of people's identity here. Our second breakout session is going to be about life outside the classroom, finding community and friends at Mudd. So for those of you that are really into getting involved with clubs, affinity groups, cultural spaces. I know I got a few questions about that in the Q&A section there. That is going to be the session breakout that you're going to want to join. And then third, we have this panel called Elevating Mutters to Thrive, where our Division of Student Affairs is going to share with you how we institutionally support students professionally, academically, mentally, socially, and personally. So that is the panel that's recommended for family members, but feel free to join any of the three of them. Similar to the last session, you can go ahead and click on the breakout rooms button at the bottom of your Zoom application and join the breakout room that sounds the most interesting to you. If you need any help with getting into the breakout rooms, we'll be in here for a little bit. We can directly transfer you to a room, but otherwise, have fun at the next session.